Buckle up, everybody, because this deep dive is going to be a wild ride.
Oh, is that right?
We're talking about the Toyota Mirai, a car that runs on hydrogen. Yeah, hydrogen.
You mean the car that emits water?
That's the one. I've got a stack of articles here all about this thing. Sounds pretty futuristic, but is it all hype? Or is Toyota really onto something here? What do you think?
Well, let's just say a car that runs on water definitely grabs your attention, doesn't it?
It sure does. But is it the future of transportation or just a cool science project? That's what we're going to find out today.
Right, let's dive in.
So the Mirai's not exactly brand new, is it?
Not at all. The first one came out back in 2014, actually.
Wow, 2014. I guess I thought it was newer than that.
Yeah, Toyota's been working on this hydrogen fuel cell technology for a while now.
Speaking of which, how does that even work? I mean, is it like a giant battery that you just fill up with hydrogen?
Kind of, but not exactly. It's more like a little power plant under the hood. You've got hydrogen in the tank and oxygen from the air. The fuel cell combines those two to make electricity, which powers the car.
So instead of exhaust fumes, you're spitting out water.
Pretty much. It's a zero-emission vehicle, just like those battery-powered electric cars everyone's talking about.
Okay, so what's the difference then? They both run on electricity, right?
True, but the key difference is how they get that electricity. With a regular electric car, you've got to plug it in, charge up that big old battery. Takes time. The Mirai, though, generates its own electricity on the fly using that hydrogen fuel cell.
So it's more like filling up a gas tank than juicing up your phone.
Exactly. You just pull up to a hydrogen fueling station, fill up your tank, and you're good to go.
Speaking of going, one thing that really jumped out at me was the Mirai's range, 400 miles. That's pretty impressive, especially compared to most electric cars out there.
Yeah, range anxiety is a real thing for people thinking about ditching gasoline. 400 miles on a single tank, that's a game changer.
No more worrying about getting stranded with a dead battery.
Yeah.
But that brings up another point where, are all the hydrogen fueling stations? I haven't exactly seen them popping up on every corner.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a hurdle the Mirai's going to have to overcome. You can have the coolest tech in the world, but if you can't refuel, it's not going to get you very far. It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, right?
Exactly. People aren't going to buy hydrogen cars if they can't fuel them up. But who's going to build the fueling stations if there aren't enough cars on the road?
It's a tough one, but Toyota's not just sitting around waiting for a miracle. They've got a plan, and it's actually pretty interesting.
Oh, do tell.
Well, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. While they are trying to sell the Mirai to everyday drivers, they're also thinking much bigger.
Bigger how? What's bigger than trying to get regular folks to switch to hydrogen?
Think semi-trucks. 18-wheelers.
Trucks.
Yep. Toyota's been developing this hydrogen fuel cell tech for heavy-duty trucks, too. They even have a cool name for it, Project Portal.
Project Portal, huh? I kind of like it. But why trucks? Why not perfect the tech in smaller vehicles first?
It's all about impact. Think about it. Big rigs, they guzzle gas. They're a huge source of pollution. If Toyota can make hydrogen power work for them, they could really put a dent in those greenhouse gas emissions.
So less about replacing my car and more about cleaning up entire industries.
Exactly. Plus, think about the logistics. Trucking companies, they already have those big refueling depots. Switching those to hydrogen, it's a smaller leap than building out a whole new network of stations for everyday drivers.
So they're kind of sneaking in the infrastructure for hydrogen cars while everyone's distracted by the trucks.
Sneaky. Well, they're not exactly hiding it, but it's definitely a smart strategy. And it's not just about being green. Hydrogen fuel cells could be a game changer for the trucking industry in terms of just plain efficiency. Refueling a hydrogen truck, way faster than recharging a battery-powered truck. We're talking minutes versus hours. And range, too. Electric trucks, they still can't go as far as a diesel on a single charge. Hydrogen trucks could change that.
So Toyota's playing the long game here, targeting different parts of the market to build up this hydrogen-powered future.
Precisely.
But they're not the only ones working on this, are they? What about other car companies? Are they jumping on board the hydrogen train?
Oh, absolutely. Toyota might be leading the pack, but there are some other big players hot on their tail. Hyundai, for one. They've got the Nexo, a hydrogen SUV.
The Nexo, yeah, I've seen pictures. It's got that futuristic vibe, just like the Mirai.
For sure. And then there's Honda. They've been developing fuel cell technology for years now. They've got the Clarity fuel cell, a sedan. Pretty impressive specs on that one.
Sounds like it's a real race to see who can make hydrogen cars mainstream.
It's like the space race, but for cleaner cars. The stakes are huge. Whoever wins, they're not just going to dominate a market. They could redefine the entire auto industry.
Talk about pressure. But you said it yourself, it's bigger than just cars, right? I've heard whispers about hydrogen fuel cells for buses, even planes. Is that really a thing?
It is. Passenger cars are just the tip of the iceberg. This technology could power buses, trains, maybe even planes someday. Imagine that.
Flying across the country on hydrogen. Now that's a future I can get behind. But let's be real for a second. Even if this tech is amazing, it all boils down to one thing: cost. How can hydrogen cars ever compete with gas guzzlers if they cost an arm and a leg?
You're hitting the nail on the head. Right now, the price is a major obstacle. But there's good news. The cost of hydrogen fuel cell tech, it's been going down. Not overnight, but it's getting there.
So there's hope for us regular folks who aren't millionaires to own one of these futuristic cars someday.
That's the hope anyway. As production ramps up and the tech improves, those prices should keep coming down.
Kind of like what happened with the solar panels, right?
Exactly. Used to be only for the rich and eco-conscious, but now you see them everywhere.
True, true. But even if the price is right, what about the environmental impact? I mean, making hydrogen, that's got to leave some kind of footprint, right?
Ah, the million-dollar question. And it's tricky. See, it's not just about the car itself. It's the whole hydrogen supply chain. How that hydrogen is made, that's the key.
So where does this hydrogen even come from?
Well, there are a few ways to produce it. Right now, the most common method uses natural gas.
Natural gas, isn't that a fossil fuel?
It is. Not exactly clean and green, is it? But they are working on capturing the emissions from the process, so it's not all bad.
Okay, so it's a work in progress. What about those other methods? Any hope for a truly clean way to make hydrogen?
There's one that has a lot of potential: electrolysis. Remember splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen back in science class?
Vaguely. Something about electricity and bubbles.
Basically, it's the same principle, just on a much larger scale. And the best part is, if you use renewable energy like solar or wind power to generate that electricity, you get completely clean hydrogen.
So clean energy making clean fuel. Now we're talking. But there's got to be a catch, right?
Cost, mainly. Renewables are getting cheaper, but they're not quite there yet to make this method truly competitive.
Got it. So green hydrogen, promising, but we need to figure out how to make it more affordable. What about other ways to make hydrogen? Anything else in the works?
There are a few more options. One that's really interesting is biomass gasification. Basically, you take organic matter, like wood chips or agricultural waste, and turn it into hydrogen.
Wait, so we're talking about turning garbage into fuel.
Essentially, it's a real thing. Keeps waste out of landfills and creates clean energy. It's a win-win.
Wow, so we've got the cars, we've got the fuel, but we need to figure out the cleanest, most cost-effective way to make it all work. It's like a puzzle, figuring out this hydrogen future.
Exactly. The Mirai, it's an incredible piece of engineering, no doubt. But to really know if it's the future, we have to look at the bigger picture. Where's the hydrogen coming from? How are we getting it?
It's not just about the destination, it's the journey, right?
Exactly. We have to make sure that journey towards a cleaner car actually leads us to a cleaner planet.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to have to wrap things up for today. Big thanks to you for taking this deep dive into the world of hydrogen with us.
Anytime. Always fun to talk about cars that run on water and garbage.
You said it. Until next time, everybody, keep those wheels turning. And remember, the future of transportation is in our hands.